Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, and that means
It is.
another episode of There's No Crying in Crochet. Boy, we have a great one for you today. If you
Do.
are a product seller, we have some answers for you. We have heard you. We are going to help you with pricing. But first, we're going to take care of business. Well, you know what? Let's take that away and stop. Come back. Hide. Okay, there we go. I am your host, Debbie from Madam Stitch, and my other host is,
Biz from Busy Crochet. Hi, everybody.
in case you didn't know us, I mean, you see our
Yeah.
faces every week. We
If you're
don't
ready to
change.
join us,
All right, now getting down to the business of business. We would love for you to see all the things that we have coming out. I know Biz has been posting some things on her YouTube channel, and I'm getting ready to post some additional things on my channel. So you will always know when we're coming out with a new episode of There's No Crying in Crochet when you subscribe to one or both of our YouTube channels, Busy Crochet or Madam Stitch Crochet. That way you'll get a notification every time something's about to happen. It's great. I love getting those notifications. Something's happening. Okay. And if you are watching on Facebook, because we love having you with us and talking to us, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you give StreamYard permission to display your name so we, Deb and Biz, can see your name in the chat and talk to you personally.
yes.
All right. That's the business. We start every episode with a catch up. So, Biz, what's up this week?
What's up this
going
week?
on?
I need a nap. We're just going to preface it with that. It's just been a long week. I will say to everybody, just keep my daughter in your prayers. We are down to the last 2 weeks before her C-section because the baby's still breech, so they've scheduled a C-section for the 31st. We are believing that everything's going to come off without a hitch, but she's dealing with extreme sciatic issues and pinches between her shoulders and can't find any comfy spots and is really struggling right now. So just keep her in your prayers that, the pain is lessened and she can function. Other than that, it's really just been all pregnancy all the time at our house. And it is the baby shower this weekend, so it has been all I can hear is cha-ching every time Tony walks out the door. So we just got to make it through this baby shower this weekend. It's going to be fun, and it's all poo themed, and we've got a ton of food, so hope everybody shows up that says they're going to be there. Other than that, I have not done anything. Nothing.
Sounds like a lot, Biz. Well, we've had some interesting weather around here. I live in an interesting spot because we're sort of wedged between. We live north of Philadelphia, so we're sort of wedged between the ocean and the Pocono Mountains, which by any other standards are really not mountains. They're short foothills, maybe, but they're really beautiful. They're mountains according to Pennsylvanians. Enough said. But anyway, it puts us in this weird weather pattern, and the jet stream has been such that just right up the coast we've had extreme temperatures, like feels like it's in the hundreds, that sort of thing, which is really unusual for Pennsylvania. But the other night, every evening I sit down with my crochet and my regular shows. We watch Jeopardy every night, then an episode of Big Bang Theory, and then something else before we go to bed. And it's just the day is over. Let's just calm it down. Lo and behold, on Tuesday, right about the time I was getting ready to get up and fix dinner, the power went out.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Now, there were storms going to our south, but nothing over us, just randomly went out. So now we're trying to figure out what to do for dinner. Easily solved by Pop John's Pizzas. Shout out to them who brought us dinner.
Woo! Yes.
Then I'm thinking, okay, how do I crochet? Of course, as it always happens, all of my devices are down to the dregs
the
of
last of their
battery
batteries. Oh, no.
Right? Because, I was going to plug it in when I went to bed. No. So I'm trying to figure out how to read because I read on my iPad. I'm trying to figure out how to crochet because, of course, my neck lamp is deader than a
Of
doornail.
course. Yes.
So I'm perched in front of a window going,
This is when
trying to
candles
crochet.
come in handy.
Well, you would think as much as the electricity goes out around here that I would be prepared, finally get some flashlights or always have my devices plugged in.
So funny.
No, no.
No.
But it all worked out. The power went on back on at 9. All is good. Nothing was lost. I got a full evening of crochet and reading in. It was
Nice.
fine, but it makes you realize how much you depend on those electronic devices and what happens when you don't take care of them. So
Well, that and you're just so
so
caught unawares, you know?
oh my gosh, yeah, and the next night we did have severe storms and the power didn't go out. I'm like,
Mm.
"What the heck?" Anyway.
When we went through, I think it was in 2019, Hurricane Sally came through here, and it was a
Mhm.
category 3, and it moved really slow. So it tore everything up. And we were without power for 9 days. And I remember driving over to my mom and dad's and using a generator to power, like to, re-battery
Yep.
my phone. And I mean, you just don't think about stuff like that. And then I would be on um, the internet in the middle of the night, and that was like the only time that you could get any connection of any kind. It was just, I never felt like I was on an island so much as that time. I've
I
never experienced
know.
anything like that.
Well, we grew up without all of this stuff, so
Right.
we certainly
It
know
was
how to
obvious.
survive without it, right?
Right.
But now it's like, "Oh, well, what are we gonna do with ourselves? Twiddle our thumbs." Anyway,
Right.
I
Right.
digress. So that's what's going on, just a lot of whole lot of crocheting going on. Alright,
Yes. Nice.
it is time for us to get started, and this week, as we said, we are so excited to share with you this month's Crochet Skills episode, which is all about how to price your products for sale.
Yes.
Um, I
Because this
think
is a question that has come up and has been requested for us to talk about by others. So, I mean, just throwing this little plug out there. If you've got a question or you want to know something, we'll do a crochet skills class on it.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, Biz, I'm gonna let you monitor the comments for a sec,
I will do.
while I get this started. This seems to be a really big issue for product sellers. How to determine the price
Mm-hmm.
is such a prickly issue because there
Mm-hmm.
there seem to be so many unknowns in the process. We try to do it almost by feel,
Yes.
and instead of thinking about all of the things that we should consider, and it's just that struggle is real. How do you
Mhm,
perfectly price it so that you go to a market or your online shop is active
mhm,
and selling happily? You come back from the market without inventory because you sold it all. No
mhm,
one wants to be in that position of being at a market and you go home with all the things that you made. It's
mhm.
just
Done that.
yeah, I actually tried early on in my business to be a product seller. I thought, well, that'd be a great line of another income stream
Mhm,
to go to markets and craft fairs and stuff and sell.
mhm,
And I quickly realized that that's not my personality. I cannot make 10 to 20 of the same thing over and over, and stay happy. I'm the
mhm.
girl with lots of works in progress, and I have to have that variety, otherwise I just go crazy. So I am not a product seller at all.
No, me either. And this is I learned that I want to say in the early 2000s because I used to back when eBay was, more than like car, and books and stuff like that. When it was everything was on there. I used to sell customized handmade dolls. And
Mm.
I'm telling you, after 4 orders of those, I was done. I'm like, "You know what? I don't like making these. I don't like doing this over and over and over." I'm like, "This is not gonna work for me."
No.
So, yeah.
So now we design patterns and let other people make them, which is
Yes.
much more my thing. But at any rate, we both know what it's like to try to price those finished products for sale.
Mhm.
So we're going to try to delve into why is it so difficult to determine the retail costs.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of
Um,
things that hold us back.
Right. So I think as crocheters, I this happens to me. When I see a crocheted item, I think, well, I could make that. What would I pay for it? And that would hold me back from paying
Yes.
anything. Yeah. So it
Yes.
goes both ways. I might not pay very much for it, but then again, I know how much work goes into it. I might be willing to pay more. It's that how much do I
Yeah.
really need that item?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think
One of the things that my dad told me, he's like, "You're not your customer. You know,
exactly.
you can't think in terms of what you would pay for it because, like you said, you know how to make it.
Exactly.
So we gotta get rid of that thinking first."
I also think we have a lot of comparison issues. Our competitors might be underselling themselves,
For
and so they
sure.
might have the same product or something similar and really be underselling it.
Yep.
We have this mentality of cheaper is better,
Yep.
but we have to kinda get past that and understand that crochet is an art. It is
Yeah.
it's a craft, artisan craft. Therefore, we need to honor it, even though it's hobby for a lot of people,
Mhm.
it's still a craft and deserves the price that reflects how much work and
Right.
effort, and time went into
Right.
making that piece. And
Mhm.
it if our competitors are underselling us, we need to shut that out.
And my dad is always the person that I go to on stuff like this, and so I'm going to bring him up a lot today, just because he and I have had many conversations. One of the things that he said to me is, "I am not. You're not paying me because he does woodworking. You're not paying me for what I can do. You're paying me for all of the hours that it took me to learn what
Mhm.
I'm doing to make it look like
Exactly.
it only takes that long."
Exactly. Right. So you and I have been crocheting since the beginning of time. And so we
Yes,
reached our 10,000 hours of
we were
expertise
formed.
long ago, right? So when I pick up a
Yes,
crochet
yes.
hook, for me, it feels like a part of my body. And I have such
Mhm.
muscle memory when it comes to my stitches and looking at
Yep,
something and knowing whether it's right or wrong. All of those
yep.
things, you're right, where you are also paying for our expertise.
Mhm.
So we have to take that into consideration. I think it's
Yep.
also really difficult for us to get past the idea that selling the product needs to just be about recouping our costs for materials.
Oh, for sure. I keep going back to in my brain is because we keep asking our cheap Aunt Sally if she would pay that much for a product,
Of
and
course not.
we know that she's not going to because she buys everything from the thrift store, which, God bless thrift stores. That's not what I'm saying. But you can't go to the cheapest person that you know and ask them whether they would
Mm,
pay this price because they're always
absolutely.
going to say no. And
Exactly.
anybody who is around you and sees how quickly you can work, they look at you and they go, "Oh, well, that's so easy for you. Why would I pay you that much money for it?" Well, that's where it comes back to, but how long have I been doing this to perfect my
Mhm.
craft to the point where it only takes me this long to make it?
Exactly, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
the time it takes you to make it a little bit later.
Yeah.
I think another thing that really drives our difficulty is that we hear people say, "Oh, you can't make money from crochet," or
Mm.
"You I could make that, you can't charge that for us," and we lose confidence in our ability
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make money from crochet. You and
Yeah.
I are proof that we can have businesses in crochet,
Mhm.
and do just fine.
Mhm.
People love to pay for things that make them feel good, that give them something to do with their hands that help them with mindful crochet.
Mhm.
But as far as product selling is concerned, don't listen to the naysayers. They
Mhm.
may or may not know what they're talking about. You need to go with your gut and just go for it.
Well, and I'm in a lot of those groups that are they do a lot of markets, and I don't know why I'm in there. I don't do markets. I just like watching what's popular and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
do it kind of to keep up with what's happening. I hear so many of them say things like, "Well, everybody that comes through my booth says, well, I can make that,' or hey, can you make that?' or you know, uh, if I buy you the stuff, can you make that?" We listen to a lot of that and we get discouraged by the fact that other people are makers, but you have to remember those people are not your customer.
Right.
Those that are going to walk in. So if you can just kind of compartmentalize those people that come through and make silly comments, and they're kind of rude comments actually, especially when you're in front of the artisan and you say, "Oh,
Exactly.
I could do this for less,
I can
this
do
is
that.
how I'll make it." And but are you going to make it? That's the thing. You're
Mm-mm.
not most of them don't. So, don't let them steal your joy.
Exactly. Right. And I think one of the last things that kind of stand in our way, why it's so hard to find what we
Mhm.
wanna charge for our products, is that there just seem to be so many ways out there to
Mm.
calculate the retail
Oh
cost.
god, yeah.
So many ways out there. Everybody and his brother or sister has a
Mhm.
formula for determining the retail cost.
Yes.
And it's not unfortunately, it's not as simple as that, which is what we'll get to a little bit later in the broadcast,
Yeah.
and that can make it hard.
They can for sure. 'Cause like, it's that ever like, is it too much? That's what we're always
Mhm.
asking. Is it too much?
Right.
Excuse my language, am I screwing myself over here?
Yeah, exactly. Alright, so I think what we're gonna do is move on to the next thing. Well, what do you have to consider
Mhm.
when you're trying to figure out what to charge for your finished product?
Yeah.
First thing is, and we're told this as business owners all the time, it's not just crochet, it's every business, you have
Yep.
to figure out who your ideal customer is.
Yeah.
Who
Who are
is
you
the
selling to?
person who are you selling to? Who is the person who cannot wait to get their hands on your stuff? And
Mhm.
that's who you need to make for, along with
Mhm.
who is your target market.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
right? So they kind of go hand in hand.
Yes.
Target market is a little bit more in line with if I'm selling in person,
Uh-huh.
who are the people who are gonna be coming to that market or that craft fair?
Right.
What do they normally buy? Your
Yeah.
online shop, a little bit different.
Yeah,
That's
because you
all
can get
about
to
your ideal
everybody.
customer, right?
Yeah.
So you need to make for them, but if you sell at a market or a craft fair, you
Mhm.
need to know who's showing up at that market.
Mhm.
Here in the Lehigh Valley, we have a couple of markets. One of them is the Easton Farmers Market downtown, and that's an outdoor market in the summertime,
Mhm.
um, and it caters to people who are out walking their dogs,
Mhm.
right? So that's the market you're gonna get there. There's another market on the other side of the valley that it's a juried market where you have to
Mhm.
apply and
Mhm.
your items have to be judged worthy isn't the right word, but you get the drift. It's a juried,
Yeah,
market where
you
at
have to hit
higher end.
a particular, quality.
Right, and that is a different market.
Yeah.
So you have to really kind of gauge what kind of people, are gonna be coming. What would they be willing to spend?
Mhm.
And that kinda
Um,
determines.
in Pensacola, we have what they call the Palafox Market, which used to just be this little strip of road that was this little park in between two like Palafox South and Palafox North, all right?
Mhm,
So, it was there for a long, long, long time, and now they've just actually, expanded it into a park downtown, so there's, like, a trolley that goes between. So, this is in our downtown, which is that is if you're a tourist, you wanna go downtown Pensacola, it's very kitschy, it's got all these cute shops, it's got, all these places. they really, really work at building up our downtown and doing gallery nights and things like that. So every Saturday, year round. I mean, they don't ever, they're never not there.
Wow.
So, but our weather sustains that kind of stuff. But this is one of those ones, it's also juried. You have to get, accepted into it in order to be in this market. But they've got everything there, but everything is like you are really catering towards the tourists that are going to be coming through, the people that
Mhm.
live downtown, which are all the like I don't know how like I want to say hipsters, they're the we buy the crunchy granolas and all this kind of stuff. That's the kind of people that live downtown. They're all the real hip and cool kids. But so that's what you're going for.
Mhm.
But there's lots of little bitty markets that happen, like usually holidays and stuff around here. A lot
Right.
of churches have little markets. So you're
Bazaars and things like that.
exactly, you're not going to
Mhm.
go to those bazaars and cater to the people that you would normally if you're a Palafox market marketer.
Right, so you have to know your target market. So that begs the question, can you go ahead of time and, in a previous year or something and see the kind of clientele that
Mhm.
frequent these markets and craft fairs?
Yeah.
I think the next one is a huge deal because what do you like to make? I mean, you gotta spend hours crocheting, and if you're making something you can't stand,
Over
ew,
and over
who wants to do
and over.
that? Crochet is supposed to be fun, and
Oh my
that's not
god.
how to do it.
Yes. See, in my mind, I have this dream booth at a craft vending, and I
Oh, do
am this
tell.
amazing vendor who I've got this amazing variety of children's clothing and couture tops for women. And
I love it.
in
So
my
when do we
brain, this is a
start?
really beautiful thing. But I'm gonna need about 30 of you to send me your stuff so I can commission sell it because I am not doing all of this.
There you go, right, so we're not making all that stuff, right?
Exactly. Oh
Mm-mm-mm.
my gosh, no way.
Now we already talked about location, tourist town, um, in a gallery, farmer's market
Right.
outside,
Yep.
um,
You really gotta know where
church,
you're
that
at.
sort of thing, so you really have to know your location. Alright, so let's go on to tips for figuring out your retail price. I promise we're gonna get to the nitty-gritty where we help
Yes,
you actually
yes.
figure it out, but we're gonna give you some tips first.
Well, and the thing is that before you even get to money, so much of the rest of this has to be settled in your mind.
Mhm.
You have
Exactly,
to get your mind ready to accept whatever the price is gonna be.
exactly. Alright, you have to consider your business goals. Are you a lot of what we've heard in our own businesses is that you set a goal.
Mhm.
I want to make X number I want to sell X number of dollars. I want
Yes.
to clear X number of dollars, and then my goal is going to be to achieve that. How do I get there? What
Right.
is my overall business goal? Do I have
Mhm.
a yearly goal?
Right.
Those things have to be considered.
Yes.
All right, this one is prickly. You and I may or may not think about this because we just produce all the patterns and make all the
Yeah.
things. You have to figure out what your hourly rate is. I
What
mean,
do you wanna be paid?
you wanna be paid. I mean, this goes back to we've gotta get out of the mindset of just recouping our supply costs,
Mhm.
because then you're just break even. What is the point? So
Yes.
you've got to pay yourself arguably a living wage, not 1 or
Yes.
$2 an hour, something that's sustainable, and the number that keeps coming up in my research is $12 an hour.
Mhm.
So that's above minimum wage in most places, but it's not exorbitant, right?
Mhm.
So, the faster you crochet, the more stuff you can make, and your
Yes.
hourly wage goes further. Does that make sense?
And I think that's one of the reasons why more of the market sellers tend to focus on the small, no sew,
Mhm.
fat, chunky yarn stuffies, because you can whip those suckers out in 15, 20, 30 minutes and
Right.
you can get more of them done. And that way you're making more off of them. But if you're the kind of person who likes to create slow fashion, it's okay. It's okay for you to be that way. And we're not just talking to market vendors as what either. You may have an online store, you may have an Etsy site, you may have, I mean, there's all these different places where you can sell, or you may just be somebody who is commission based within, a friend network or that kind of thing. You still have to price this so that you're not spending 6 weeks making nothing.
Exactly.
You're basically donating, and at that point, you're not a business person, you're not a CEO, you are a hobbypreneur. You are living a hobby for other people's enjoyment.
Right. And if that's your goal,
Yeah. If that's what
that's
brings you
great.
joy, then fine.
But if you want to maintain a business, you have to adopt a business model, and that is you must pay yourself an hourly wage
Yes.
that's worth your time.
Yes.
All right. As you are making a product, so you've figured out what product you're going to make, you have to time yourself accurately because you don't
That's
want to
so hard.
undervalue that time and you don't want to grossly overestimate the amount of time that so you've got to find that sweet spot of
Yes.
how much time did it actually take to make that. So you've got to be willing to turn the clock on, turn the clock off,
Mhm.
add up all those times. Yes, there is math involved in all of this.
Yeah.
Um,
But
in
there's
order to
math
get it accurate. There's math. There's
in
math in
everything.
crochet, but especially in crochet business.
Yes.
So
Never
figure
knew it was
that
gonna
out.
be there, or I probably wouldn't have ventured in.
Oh, well. Um, and you have to accurately calculate your materials cost. It's not just
Yes.
about the yarn. Did
Mhm.
you have to replace that crochet hook because you lost it in your chair? Um, you know, I mean, it happens
Yes.
to the best of us. Womp.
Too
Um,
often.
yeah, or did you have to buy special materials to make that, like
Yeah.
stuffing for your stuffies? Things like that have to be
Yep.
considered. And the stuffing for that particular stuffy needs to be weighed so you know
Mhm.
exactly how much you used from that package.
Yep. Yep. And the more that you do, and the more that you actually take the notes and all of this stuff, after a while, it's not going to be every single time you do this. It
Right.
doesn't have it's just prep work, it's groundwork, it's laying the foundation for you to be able to actually build, because that's what we started with, is the business foundation part of it.
Exactly.
And that's why I said this is all got to be in your mind. You have so much prep work to do before you ever get to the numbers.
We can't just dive in, Biz. Is that what you're
No.
saying? Oh,
Yes. I mean, we'd
man,
all love to, wouldn't we?
that stinks.
I mean, when somebody says, "Hey, can you make this sweater for me?" Heck yes, I'll take $70 for it. And then you spend, 8 weeks
Oh,
and
gosh.
you hate yourself by the time that you actually finish it, and you swear you're never
Exactly.
gonna touch that pattern again.
Right?
Yeah, you didn't do anything for yourself. Nothing.
Yeah, so just an insert, 'cause I got one more point here. Just an insert. That's a perfect example of why you never agree to make a blanket for someone for pay because they can't
Mhm.
afford it. They
Well,
just can't afford the number of hours that you put into it. It's just
there's
way
a
too
guy
expensive.
there's a guy who's like, he's like, I promise, I don't care." I told him, I said, "It's gonna be really spendy." I'm like, this is gonna be a lot of money." "I don't care. I want it so much. I will pay whatever you want." Okay. I sent him a quote. Still haven't heard from him.
You
Still, and
scared
this
him
was like
off.
probably 8 months ago.
Oh
Still
my
haven't heard
gosh.
from him. Yeah, you don't want to pay that, do you?
You really don't.
You don't.
Know
I
thyself,
tried to
my
warn
friend.
you.
All right, and the last point is you really have to do some research. You
Mhm.
really have to research what your competitors are doing.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not an island out here just selling pretty things and no one else is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all kinda are selling our crochet. You really
Mhm.
need to see what the competitors are doing, but be
Mhm.
really careful about comparison. This
Yep.
is just objective research about what the market will sustain.
Yes, that's a really smart way of saying that, is you are doing market research. You're not looking at your competitors. You are literally going to see what is the market gonna bear for this particular
Mhm.
item.
Exactly.
What's everybody else charging? And yes, you can go to the Gucci site and the Yves Saint Laurent or whoever it is. I don't even know who the
Oh,
names
look
are.
at those names.
Like, I know.
What?
I don't even know who they are. But a lot of them sell the fast crochet stuff. And they're
Mhm,
selling it for 700, $1,000, that kind of stuff. Yes, you can find clientele that are willing to spend that.
mhm.
You have to decide whether or not that is the land you want to live in. And if you want to compete with Dior, do you want to compete with them? Because they're going to beat you every time. But it doesn't mean that you can't charge what's fair for you so that you are
Right,
not doing this for nothing.
exactly. Alright. Anything else before we move on to the nitty-gritty of why we're here?
No, I threw out the big three names I know. So I'm
Okay,
good.
good. Alright. Alright, here we are. How do you determine the retail cost? So there are
Yes.
several things we've
I
touched
still
on up to
struggle with
this
this.
point about things to consider. So we're gonna take them one at a time because
Mhm.
these are gonna come back to you in a formula that we have borrowed from one
Alright.
of our business coaches. So
Yes.
we're going to let you see that later. First thing, cost of supplies. Again, every
Mhm.
single supply, every portion of a supply, everything has to be considered in that cost.
Yes. Yes. Cost of goods sold.
Cost of goods. How do you determine the amount of yarn that you used? Well, start
Mm.
with a new skein of yarn. Make sure you weigh it at different stages of the game.
Mhm.
And when you're done, how much do you have left?
Mhm.
You subtract that from the original weight or yardage, and you have the amount that you use. That's a simplistic way to do it, but keep track. Keep
I
a
do that
record.
even on my scrap balls. If
Mhm.
I measure them before and I measure them after, I know what brand it is, so I know. I mean, I've got my formulas all written down now, but like I know that I love this yarn is so many yards per blah 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 blah, and I even do it with my scrap balls. So just because you're using leftovers doesn't mean you don't have to take care of
Exactly.
it.
All right, we touched on this a little while ago. Your hourly rate, do
Mhm.
not, do not undersell yourself. Your time is worth being paid
You
for.
are worth it.
What is?
Yeah.
And this is another place where you might want to consider where you live, and the
Yes.
cost of living there can also be a part of your calculation. If you
Yes.
live in New York City, you might need to charge more than $12 an hour
You're
because
gonna have
I've
to.
heard it's really expensive to live there.
Well, don't they sell apartments there? Like, you don't rent them, you own them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't live far from New York City, and it's not cheap to live here either, but a lot
Yeah,
cheaper than living in the city. But yeah,
yeah,
you have to consider where you live and what you need to do to make a living wage, all of
yes.
that stuff. And then the business expenses. So this is one that we haven't really talked about, and this is
Mhm,
kind of nebulous, um,
mhm.
kind of difficult to quantify, but
'Cause it's different for everybody.
it is. And so uh, you need to take
Right.
you can leave this out if you want. It usually ends up being about 2 or $3 an item,
Yeah,
but and that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but if you wanna be able to pay your expenses, like the cost of your website, like the cost of, if you use an accountant or, the apps that you use to
this is
sell,
your
all
overhead.
of that kinda your
Yes.
fees for PayPal,
Mhm.
anything like that
Yeah.
needs to be factored in. It's probably going to be an estimate. right?
Mhm.
Because we do know what our business expenses are, but they're constantly shifting as
Yeah.
through the year.
Yeah.
So kind of look at the overall picture, maybe look at the previous year, look at
Mhm.
how much you spent and divide that by the number of items that you're going to sell, not just for this market, but
Mhm.
for markets throughout the
Yeah.
year because you want
Yeah.
those business expenses to be spread out over your entire inventory.
And so I just want to throw this in there. If you're just starting out and you have no idea how many you're going to sell in a year, like you don't know how to come up
Mhm.
with your business expenses, a good idea is just to start with that $2 to $3 range and just tacking that in there because it's going to cover. And then after you've been in business for 6 months, 9 months, a year, take the time to do an inventory of what am I spending money on? What are my business expenses? Do I have a website? Am I using software specifically for my business? Am I
Yeah,
using, these things? Not it's not just a, oh, well, I bought Microsoft and my whole family is using the Word and blah blah blah. But no, is this a software that you have specifically purchased because your business needs it?
exactly.
Mhm.
And the last piece of the puzzle is how much are you going to mark it up? What is your profit margin going to be?
Mhm.
We're going to see in the formula in a second how you take those expenses, the cost of supplies, the hourly rate, the business expenses. You
Mhm.
add those all together and you take it times 1 point whatever your percentage markup is.
Yes.
So typically 30% markup is for wholesale.
Okay.
So if you're going to sell them to a store who
Mhm.
will then mark them up for their profit, you're
Mhm.
probably dealing with wholesale, which is
Mhm.
30%. But if you want to do retail, that's generally 75%.
Mhm.
So as we see, but you can determine your own markup value. It doesn't have to be either one of those figures.
Yeah,
It
if
can
you
be
go, "Oh my
whatever
god,
you
I
want it
can't
to be.
expect 75%. I could only expect a 50 or a 60 or a 40," or, you get to determine how much profit you're gonna make off.
But let me add this point. You don't know how much profit you might make, but you need to try different scenarios and
For
see
sure.
what your final price is going to be. So
Mhm.
here's the formula. And again, I'm gonna put this up first because Pam Grice of Crochetpreneur has a
Mhm.
blog post. Now, I did
Yes.
research on other blog posts and found a lot of the same information, but if you want the 411 on all of this and the formula that we're showing you today,
Yeah.
this is the blog post. I have it in the description of my YouTube. I'm sure Biz will put it up there too, but
Mhm.
just make sure that you visit this blog post. We're giving her credit because we did not come up with
Yeah, this
this.
isn't us.
This isn't us, right? So here we go. Here's the formula. This is where math comes in handy. Okay,
Handy.
so you're going to add supplies plus your hourly rate. That would be how many hours did it take you? Point 0.5. Let's say it took you half an hour. Point 0.5 times your hourly rate. Let's say that was $12. That's $6 right there that you need to put in that
Mhm.
formula. Business expenses, let's say, is $2.
Right.
Okay. You're going to take all of that times 1, which just gives you the same number,
Mhm.
0.75, which is the percentage, 75%. And that's going to equal the retail cost per item.
Okay, so we're just gonna do a for instance here.
All
So
right.
all my supplies were $7 and it
Okay.
took me a half an hour to make it, so I'm gonna charge $6. And my business expenses, I'm gonna charge $3 for my business expenses.
Now, what are
That's
you making? What are you making?
16
No,
dollars
what
Oh,
item are you making?
I'm making, an amigurumi, a really little
Okay.
amigurumi.
Okay.
So that's $16 right there, times 1.75. $28 is my retail cost. So this is where a lot of us, our hearts just go, What? What did you know? What?" But here's the thing. So we're talking, you can, people buy this stuff. This is the thing. We, as the crafter, as the artisan, go, I would never in a million years spend
Right.
$25 on that little
Well,
toy.
because we're looking at the $6 that it took us to make it
Or
and
the
the
$7.
supplies,
Right,
right? Right,
right,
and we discount our hourly wage, whatever.
right.
Right now, if that $28 is too much for the amigurumi because it looks like it's just a ball, then you might wanna reconsider your profit markup, right? So
Right.
maybe not 75%, but maybe
So,
50%?
yeah, if we did, let's see, it was $16, so we're times 1.5, that would be a $24. So it's still, you're still making decent amount of money. The thing is this, if you're starting out and $28, I mean, the only thing is that you're going to have to test your market. If
Mhm,
you're a beginner, you're going to have to find out what people are willing to pay. The other thing too is the quality of your product is going to determine whether people are willing to pay 24, $28 for a stuffy. People who cannot do this, people who go to Comic Cons, people will spend money on what they want. So don't ever think I can't charge this much because nobody will ever buy it. You're selling yourself short.
yes, but you bring up a good point. It
Mm.
must be quality work,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you
right? We're going to
yes,
assume that it's at the high end of the skill
yes,
level of
yes,
crochet to
absolutely.
sell at a market because uneven stitches, gaps, all of those
Mm,
kinds of things are gonna turn people off. So when they
yes,
look at it, it needs to be of the highest quality.
absolutely. Does this look like I could buy it in a store? And a lot of
Mhm,
people who, if it is a high quality item and it looks like you could buy that thing in a store today,
mhm.
they're usually willing to pay that artisan price for it.
Right, exactly. Alright, so that is the formula. It really just requires a lot of massaging, a lot of testing,
It does.
and once you do it for a while, once you see what sells, if an item just another caveat, if an item ends up being way too expensive, for instance, you're making a hat. Hats are super popular at markets,
Mhm,
people love them.
mhm,
But if you're making a hat and you chose materials that were alpaca or high-end wool, and your
mhm.
supplies end up being 25, $28 to begin with, you might not be able to sell it, and if you can't sell it, you need to be prepared to put it aside and not make it part of your inventory. You
Okay,
have
so
to
I'm
keep
just gonna
things
play around with this again. So
alright.
we'll
Oh,
say
cool.
$28 in fiber and say we're
Let's
$12 an
say
hour
an
and
hour
an
to
hour.
make a
Okay,
hat. Do you
all
think
right.
an hour
Well,
to make a hat?
I was gonna say 3 because I'm not super fast with hats, but okay.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go with an hour because we know it's gonna be more.
Yeah, so $40 and we're gonna go with our 1.75 markup. That would be a $49 hat, which the thing is this, if you are taking the time to make it out of alpaca,
Mhm,
et cetera, you are already dealing with higher end items. You are already dealing in that high end market. The thing that you're going to want to do in situations like this, unless that is the market you're going for, if you want to have something that's accessible for everybody, you're going to want to have your $49 alpaca hats and you're going to want to have your $20 acrylic hats.
yeah,
Hit
exactly.
the market in all the spots.
Yep, exactly, and add a nice little pom-pom to the acrylic hat, and people will love it.
Absolutely. 'Cause you're gonna always have the bargain Bob, and you're always gonna have the supercell Sally. You know, it's just
Yep,
and Sally's I'm on my brain today 'cause of that hurricane. But you are gonna have people in both markets, and as long as you are making like I said, unless you wanna go just I'm just a high-end maker. If you wanna hit them all, you've gotta have low, medium, and high market items.
yeah. Alright. Well, I hope that was helpful. We have a couple of other designers who one of
Mhm.
my favorites is Cameron of Cameron's Cute Creations. I met her at the Crochet Business Summit this year. She she sells all of her stuff at markets. If you haven't checked out her Instagram account, Cameron's Cute Creations, She is a market seller coach. So
Okay. Well, she's
all of
somebody you
her
wanna get hooked up with.
yeah, you really need to check her out because, and I would check her out on Instagram. I know social media can get a bad rap sometimes, but she has made the most of it. I think she's got 140,000
That's
followers,
great.
but it's well deserved. She is on multiple times a week with tips about how to sell.
Mhm,
Um, she has blog posts, all of that kind of stuff. Of course, Pam of Crochetpreneur
mhm.
and Alicia Littlejohn of Little John's Yarn is another person who has some fun tips about how to sell at markets.
Mm.
So, and online, so how to sell finished products. There are others out there. I see them on my
Yeah.
Instagram feed all the time. They show their setups, all of that kind of stuff. So, if you're looking to up your game in the
Mhm,
product seller market beyond just beyond just figuring out your price, go
mhm.
check them out on Instagram.
Another one
Well
that I
worth your
wanna
time.
recommend too is it's a group on Facebook, and it's called Ash, ASH, and the word and Tay, Tay. It's these 2 women that came together and they created this group for basically vendors, and, that is one of the places that has some of the best information for markets.
Yeah.
Um, they do kind of the marketers do kind of get stuck in it. It's a lot of amigurumi in there, but they have great ideas for vendors and stuff like that, and different ways to even just like stage your items and stuff like that in
Mhm.
your it's a great place for information.
Yeah, and remember, that's part of your business expenses. Your
Hmm.
setup, the supplies
Yeah,
to get everything in display,
your tent,
business cards, all of that kind of stuff. Those are
every
business
bit of it.
expenses. Take that into account. All right, Biz, have we done it? Do you think we did it?
I think we
I
did
think
it.
we did it. We
Hmm.
did it. Then I'm going to move on to probably what you're not gonna be able to answer, and that's what have you been watching this week?
Not really.
I've been watching baby shower supplies. It's what
Pretty much, it's been that, and I will say that in background noise, we've had a lot of uh stupid reality TV shows on, and that's been pretty much it. Yeah.
just a lot of background noise. Yeah,
Yeah.
we do a little bit of that. We also have done we're sort of working our way still through White Collars. We're just gonna start season 5 of 6,
Mhm,
and I've been looking for new shows to watch, so I checked out,
mhm.
Amazon Prime, and I don't know, there are some things on there I think I might start watching. There's another one on Peacock that I watched the 1st season of called Vigil.
Mm,
If you've never seen it on Peacock, fabulous, fabulous series. I really thought they were gonna cancel it after the 1st season because
mhm.
kind of it didn't have a cliffhanger, it had a happy ending kinda thing, but
Okay,
they actually have a 2nd season, which I just saw, so
okay,
that's going on the list, and I'm gonna make my
nice.
husband watch the 1st season because it takes place on a submarine.
Okay,
There's a murder
interesting.
on a submarine, and this person who's um, deathly afraid of the water, is forced to go on and investigate
Oh
in
my
a
god, I don't think I
tube
could do it.
that's underwater.
Okay,
Tube,
like,
tube.
my heart starts to seize at the thought. I just I'm super claustrophobic. I hate flying on planes. To me, they're nothing but flying death tubes, and I just like the thought of getting in a submarine, which is a submerged death tube. Mm-mm, nope.
Yeah, well, I will say it does give one pause while watching the season, but it is so well made and the characters, you and I are character driven
Yes,
watchers, and
yes.
this one just has it all going on.
Nice.
So just a really good series. I might start watching it this weekend. We'll see.
Oh,
But
I will say this. We Tony always has to have the TV on at bedtime, so we have a tendency to fight over what TV shows are on because he likes some really stupid stuff. And we finally finished Scrubs, which that actually turned out to be better than I thought it was
that's
gonna be.
actually not bad.
Um, but we've gone back to Everybody Loves Raymond. So that's what we're currently on at bedtime. And we have been managing to watch a little bit of Law and Order Criminal Intent.
Gotcha.
So
I used to
other
be a
than
faithful Law and Order
Mhm.
watcher,
I have
but then
seen
I sort
Criminal
of
Intent,
outgrew it
all of the
a little
seasons
bit.
like at least 3 times now.
Yeah, I outgrew it a little bit. But anyway, that's what we've been watching. I'm gonna take that away because I
Nice.
think it's
Yes.
time for us to say goodbye.
Mhm.
Always a sad part of the broadcast, but we're excited about the things coming up. We've
Yes.
already planned out this entire quarter's worth of podcasts, and it's so much fun. We have fun things going on. Biz has a Cal going on right now. I have a
Yep, we're
Cal
actually in the
coming up in
last
August.
day. Yeah.
Oh, it ends today?
Yep, tomorrow, but yep.
Or tomorrow? Gotcha. And I have one starting in August. And Biz and I are working on some collaborative designs that I think you're gonna
Uh-huh.
like.
Yes.
Yay! So, just lots of cool things going on. So, from us to
Mhm.
you, we say have a great weekend. Oh, wait,
Yes,
do you have
and
something
don't
else?
forget to come back next week because Sonia Blackstone of Blackstone Designs is gonna be here with us.
Yeah, we have featured some of her designs, and she is the gift basket
Yes.
extraordinaire lady,
Yes.
plus all kinds of other things you're gonna wanna watch.
Yes, and
Um,
this being our back to school month, we're kind of themed on that. We're gonna be talking about things that you can do for gifts.
but we are so excited to have her. But at
Yes.
any rate, right now, we're gonna say, have a great weekend.
Yes.
Pick up that hook every day, whether you have a power outage or not. Just make sure all your devices are charged. And we will see you next time on There's No Crying in Crochet. See you,
Yay.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.